the So I'm Adopted podcast, where we talk everything adoption. This journey is not one we take alone. Together we grapple with raw emotions that surface from adoption stories. We want you to be comfortable enough to heal. So sit back and go with us on this journey as we dive deep into adoption.
So we want to welcome you to our next edition of our podcast. And if you notice, we have some other faces with us.
We do.
It was intentional. We talked about this in our first podcast when we sat down on the couch and we shared our stories. And now we're at a place where we have our significant others with us.
Our spouses with. And you know what, John?
What's up?
This is our 13th episode.
13th episode on the 14th day of December. We could have just said it was the 13th day, but who really knows? Because it's not going to get posted later. But anyway, we're going to stay focused. So I want to introduce the love of my life, my wife, Janice. Hey, Janice, say hi to our...
Hello, everyone. So happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation, John and Lisa.
Have we met?
I'm about to say,
Nice to meet you.
good gracious.
I'm nervous.
This is real. This happens. See?
It's okay. Take your time.
Your hands are sweating.
It's okay.
It's the velvet. That's what it is.
Is it velvet?
What is that? Velvet?
What is that? Velvet?
You see, we just have a good time.
Gotta
Yes.
have fun.
And on my side here is my rib, my husband, Titus. Yeah, that would be right.
I saw it when it came out. It's okay.
We're all nervous.
We're okay. But this is Titus. Say hi to the good folks.
Hello, good folks. How y'all doing?
Oh, yeah.
Glad to be here. So,
And we're glad to have y'all.
Absolutely.
a fun episode.
It's going to be a fun episode.
Yes.
If you've been journeying, if you've been with us throughout our episodes, you know that we created a space to talk about our journeys in life, non-traditional relationships. And we started off, Lisa had this mindset of, John, we need to talk about our story. And she was very consistent, as I stated. And 13 episodes later, we're here. And to start off, I just want to tell you, I got a call from a gentleman. I'm not going to share his name. He's a humble guy. But he said he was just calling to check on me. And then at the end of the call, he said, hey, John. He said, man, listen, what you and Lisa are doing, thank you. And I said, one, I didn't even know that he watched the podcast.
Right.
He said, I have individuals I work with watching it because they're wrestling with relationships.
Mm.
And to get that nugget, it humbled me because, one, like I said, I wasn't even aware that he watched it.
Right.
So we just wanted to create a space where people can talk about what they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
We've identified that this adoption, I don't want to say thing, but this adoption entity
Space. Yeah.
space impacts many different people
Mm-hmm.
in many different ways, and often they don't get talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So when we first started, we shared our stories, but then when you really start to understand relationships, there are three sides to every story: yours, theirs, then the truth.
Yep.
Right? And what we wanted to do was give space to our significant others, because if you remember our stories, go back to the first episodes,
First
shameless
few
plug,
episodes.
shameless
Mhm.
plug.
Mm-hmm.
They have a different angle because we had a level of excitement because it was
Our story.
our story.
Yes.
They were on the sideline watching, even though they were a part of it.
Yes.
So we wanted to bring them to the table just so that they can share what they saw, what they experienced, and
Their
then also,
perspective.
their
Yes.
perspective, and
Mhm.
also how us being adopted impacts our relationships.
Yeah.
Because there are things that lay dormant that often we don't talk about, we don't call them what they are. And I'll be honest, I'll be transparent first. There were a lot of things that I didn't really understand until we continued to just live this life and walk this journey. And then I began to understand that, oh, this is why I respond that way. This is why
Mhm.
I'm reacting that way.
Mhm.
Now, I didn't tell her for a while because that's just me trying to process it and a little bit of pride being right there. I'm going to call it what it is.
But I have some good examples.
Ooh.
That's why we have editing. Bam. So
And I'm the editor, so bam.
I was about to say something. And it's so powerful because I never forget. I was working at the alternative school right after I found out, or some kind of way, Titus called me, and he said, "John, you need to get with Lisa." And that's when I found out that you were adopted.
Mm.
You know, so it's the significant other has pieces of the puzzle, and as you shared with your story, Titus had all the goods.
Yeah. Well, how long did we know each other before we realized we both were adopted? Can you recall?
I know it was.
I mean,
Yeah, it had been a while because I didn't know because it floored me.
I didn't know that you were either.
Probably
Because that's not the
7
first
years.
thing you talk about
Right.
in conversation. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah,
That's
you don't
not
just
the
walk
first
around
thing.
with that card.
Hey, I'm adopted. Hey, adopted. You know, you don't know until you really get to know someone and get to know their story or their truth or whatnot. But it was years before we knew that we were both adopted.
Hence the title, So I'm Adopted.
So we'll start off with this question, and I'll pose it to Titus first. Tell us when you found out Lisa was adopted.
Yeah, that was a funny situation. So we went to go visit Lisa's grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting in the living room, we're talking. I think Lisa was over. You was over in the dining area.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there talking to Grandma. Just having a conversation. She looks at me. Y'all haven't been here to visit me. She talking about Grandma. We just came saw you like a week and a half ago.
Okay.
I understand. She was struggling with
Dementia.
and going through different things. So she said it a few times, and so then she's like, "Well, I remember when they brought Lisa home from the hospital." I said, "Okay." Just letting her go in wherever I thought she was. But evidently, she was in a
lucid state.
she was in a good state.
Oh, okay.
Clear state.
This particular day, because the next thing she said out of her mouth was what I asked her the question. I said, "Okay, well, yeah, okay. You remember when they brought her home from the hospital?" I said, "Okay, Grandma." And she said, "Yes, when they adopted her." And I was like,
That's how she
so
said it.
now I'm trying to figure out, okay, where is she? I just didn't know what to think.
Was it just the two of you in the room?
Just the two of us. And she looked me straight in my eyes.
So you found out before Lisa found out?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I did.
Jaw dropping moment. You're
So
not.
I literally sat there and I looked at her like, I thought, okay. I really didn't have a comeback because I'm trying to process what I just heard. Okay, is this Grandma or is this,
Her and her
Dementia.
But you do know that when people are in that dementia state, all truths come out.
Mm-hmm.
It does, but that's something that you don't expect to hear.
Yeah.
After us being married at the time,
20-something years.
20 plus years at that time.
Wow.
And to
So-
know, I've mentioned this before, we both grew up together, so our families are very close.
I didn't know y'all grew up together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, our father's from Virginia.
Our
He's
families
from-
know one another.
Yeah. Our families know one another.
Same church.
Same church, grew up. So everyone knew. His mom knew
That you were adopted.
everyone knew that I was adopted, except
you.
out of all the people, he didn't know and I didn't. You know what I'm saying? And we ended up marrying each other.
Wow.
So
Okay.
after she mentioned that to me, I kind of sat on it for about,
I don't know.
Overnight.
Overnight.
I tossed and turned all night long, trying to figure out, do I say something to Lisa at this point? How do I address what I just heard?
Mm.
And I'm up 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. It was a bad night for me, sleeping wise, just tossing and turning with that. So the next day I told Lisa, "Hey, Lisa, I don't know how to tell you this, but this is what Grandma said to me. Talking about, she remember when they brought you home from the hospital when you were adopted." And so at that point, it was like, well, we going to the grandma house right now. 5 minutes, we were out the door, on the way to Grandma's house.
Yep.
And so that's when Lisa asked her about it. And Lisa, I told the story, how she asked her.
And she looked at Titus. I asked her the question. I said, "You've been trying to, talk to me for a minute now. So let's talk. I'm here. Let's talk." I said, "Because Titus said you had something to say."
Going in there getting gangsta on
I
grandma.
had to get
Gangsta.
gangster. I did. And then she looked, because Titus was like behind me, and she looked at Titus, and she looked back at me, and she has a big bay window. She turned around, looked at the crossed her legs, and said, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Well, literally, she said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And fluttered her eyes and looked at the window. I said, "Oh, here we go."
I've been set up.
And it just kind of went from there.
Yeah, and I said,
was
"Okay,
like,
you keep looking out your window. That's all right. I know where to go to get the truth and the answers."
That was
and
a tough moment.
And I made a beeline to my aunt's
That
house.
was a tough moment because I had to really make a decision. I'm trying to protect Lisa,
Right.
because I don't want to say anything that maybe wasn't what she was trying to really say.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't say anything and it comes out later, and then Lisa like, "So you knew?" So I was just in a bad situation.
You were in a pickle.
I was.
So here's the question for Lisa.
Mm.
With him bringing you that information, what's the first thought that came to you? What was the first question? Is he lying? I got to go talk to grandma? Or like, what was it?
Oh, no, I got to go talk to grandma.
Okay. So it wasn't it was because he brought it to you. Okay, let's ride with it.
That's right, because she's been hounding me for months that she wanted to talk to me.
Oh, she had?
Yes.
Never said what it was about.
Never said what it was about.
Ah.
But every time I went over there, "Oh, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you." And she kept talking about how I helped take care of my mother's mother, during those later years.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just thought that's what she wanted to talk, how good a daughter I was, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That was in my mind. But I felt that she's had this on her heart for a long period of time, knowing that I did not know.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess she felt that before she leaves this earth, she's going to make sure I knew.
So let me tell you.
That's just my personal opinion.
Let me tell you what's so powerful about, and again, this is where we start to unpack the relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because him presenting that information to you had the potential to really cause some strife between you all, if you think about it. I'm not saying you, I'm just in general.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times, especially in our cultures, we don't talk about stuff, so there are a lot of secrets that are hidden around. But you could have been to a place, "You lying, why are you lying?" And it could have went left field.
But because I think back in my mind, I knew it was some truth to it.
Oh.
Just, when they say when you're about to die or something, your whole life flashes before your eyes. So when he said that, certain things, I would say, started registering, clicking in my head from my past, from my childhood. So I felt it was some kind of truth to it, just that little flicker of believing it was enough for me to go, oh, plus her saying, "I need to talk to you."
So what exactly, give me an example of one thing that you remember way back in the day.
Oh, well, and I've mentioned this before in the podcast, when I was in high school, because I have an older brother who's adopted as well, and we're not blood related, but our last name is very unique. So he's 3 years older than me. Again, my mom was light skinned, he was light skinned. Here I come, this dark skinned girl. My dad really wasn't around school. My mom was PTA president, BAM president, all that stuff. So she was always involved in school with us. So that's all they saw. So here I come in high school with the last name. They're like, "Are you Howard's sister?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Are you adopted?" I'm like, "No, I ain't adopted. What's wrong?" My dad, I look like my dad. My dad was dark. He had light brown eyes. I'm dark. I have light brown eyes. So that explained it. I go home, tell my mom what just happened at school. They say, "Oh, okay, well, I'm cooking this for dinner," and, things like that.
It was a quick pivot.
Yeah, quick pivot. She didn't acknowledge it at all.
Wow.
And I didn't think about it. But when he said what he said, those little things started coming back in my head. When I was little, I was over at my aunt's house. I have two other cousins that's about my age, and we're playing on the swing set. And he goes, and that's why you're. I don't know why we were talking about it, but he said, and that's why you're adopted. And I ran in the house. Ah, he said I was adopted. She's like, he don't know what he's talking about. Go on back out there and play. You know, little things like that has happened in my life, and I always felt that I was involved, but I wasn't involved. Certain things would take place, or certain cousins would be invited some places that I wasn't for whatever reason, and I just couldn't put my finger on it. You know, because I have a cousin, we're like this. So she was there, but I wasn't there. Just certain things took place that just didn't click to me, but I never really had a reason. I just couldn't put my finger on it. Yeah. So when he said that, that's when that little bit of belief.
I'm taking the ball and I'm running with it.
Right. And then on top of what she said. So it wasn't one thing, it was a combination of things that took place throughout my life.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So let's jump to the other side of when you found out I was adopted.
Yes. Let's hear, what was it that, I mean, because did you know before you got married that he was adopted, or just happened after you all got married?
So even as I'm listening to you all's story, I think John's couldn't be more different. John being adopted was an open piece of information that he's had his whole life. And he came to me and told me as we were dating it was almost like, you know, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? We just out.
Just getting to know each other.
And it was just something that is a part of the tapestry of who Johnny Hughes Underwood III is. Right. And it wasn't a secret for him growing up, so it wasn't a secret during our courtship. Yes,
okay.
Titus Hughes. But
I didn't even catch that.
But probably the more aha moments that we had were, in terms of awkward moments, would be little comments when we would be out and about, whether we were around family or not, where people would say, you know, Johnny, you look just like your mama, Carolyn Underwood.
Oh, really?
And people would say things like that, or I don't know how you got to be so tall with your daddy so short.
So did these people know, or no?
Largely,
some people did. Some
people did. Some people didn't. But largely, this is coming from people who didn't necessarily know, that were on the peripheral.
Gotcha.
So then, everyone who did know, who were in the presence of the comment, it was almost like we would be with his mom or dad. There would be no correction.
Like, oh, what's on the menu? You know.
Correct. Yes. To your point of pivoting, it was almost like, yep, sure do. Looks just like me.
Well, my dad would say, because I got strong genes.
Right. It was. I would pick up on these subtle sort of, we haven't quite dealt with the trauma of how this could come out in a mixed conversation, a mixed company.
But because it wasn't a secret to John, because he knew all most of his life, and then it's not necessarily a secret to the interfamily. So why was it? What do you think prevented them from saying, "Oh no," because he's adopted right then and there?
So I think as she's telling the story and I'm listening, what hit me, knowing how my mom's thought process was, I think that her mindset was, I'm gonna tell him, and then I ain't gotta deal with it no more. Truth is out, so be it. I can see that being the mentality versus I don't want to have this conversation 13 years from now, where now I got to do a lot of explaining. If I tell you from the beginning and you already know, now you know, keep it moving.
But not necessarily you, but I'm talking about the people who were making the statements of, oh, you look like Carolyn. Oh, you're so tall. I don't know why. Those people at that given moment in time, they could have said, well, because he was adopted.
Well, I would just jump in this double dutch to say that I could see a little bit of pain in her face. I think that's what I mean by we haven't dealt with the trauma of it. So I told him I did what I thought was right when he was little, because literally when she told him, John just went right outside back to play.
Right.
So he just pivoted, kind of like how your mom was just like, what's for dinner?
Yeah.
Right. So even years later, when we got married and I instigated probably all right, let's find your birth family. His mom was totally against it.
Shut it down.
She shut it down. And I think that
it
speaks to her feelings of being threatened. Like, no, I'm his mother. And as long as I'm alive, I'm his mother. And I don't want anyone coming in here taking that place.
And that's exactly how my mother approached it. Because even in her death, no one said anything.
But
no one.
You say that their cases are different, but the parents' mindset is the same.
Exactly.
How it was brought out was different, but that trauma piece
is the same.
Yeah.
What was interesting though is after Carolyn Underwood passed away, we're driving home from a family reunion from Alabama, and it's set the stage. It's me and John, Pop Underwood, and Jalen Jordan in the car. And as we're driving home, I don't know what placed it on John's heart to say this, but Pop, I want to find my birth family. Are you okay with that? Because I know Mom shut it down years before. And interestingly, he said, yes, I want to know too.
Well, the thing is, you got to keep in mind how women think and how men think. Because I know if it was opposed to my father in that sense, if I had already known, I believe that he would have been like, yeah. But when it comes to the mothers, that's a different story.
It's a different, it's a different connection.
Because I do know that I believe my father tried to tell me before he died. He just couldn't do it. He couldn't do it.
Wow.
Because he knew at that point, whether he knew before or not that I knew, because my mom pretty much controlled. When it came to us, she pretty much controlled that when it came to my brother and I. So I feel that, he really tried, because he may have thought that she told him. It's not like they sat us down together and said, okay, you're adopted. If it was going to happen, it was 9 times out of 10, just my mom won't tell us. I'm just being for real. Because my father was a very quiet man. But when he spoke, everybody listened. But when it came to us, she was really in control. So I don't think if it was opposed to him in that manner that I had already known, he would like, yeah, that's fine with me. But because he knew for 100% that she didn't tell us, he tried to tell us, because his siblings, well, I know my aunt was trying to say, you need to tell her. You need to tell them. And I think he really tried. I really, truly believe he tried, but he just couldn't do it.
So getting back to John's story, I'll just share with you that, because it was, I called it an open secret only because of that nuance of, we didn't talk about it with outsiders, because they would say, oh, you look just like your mother. Oh, look at this picture. They will hold up pictures if they were looking at pictures together of the two of them. And so that's what I mean by an open secret. Many of us on his side of the family, we all knew.
Right.
And then there would be kind of this awkward looking around like nobody corrected it. Because it was almost like John was such a special
And if Carolyn didn't say, because she's the only one who could say.
Right.
And if she didn't say anything, everyone's going to fall in line.
Everyone fell in line. And John was the coveted child. I mean, she did everything for him. And I think Johnny Underwood Jr. just fell in line because this was the gift that God had given her. And to her, because of that gift from God, because of that spiritual belief and connection and relationship with God, it was almost like she believed that there was a fusing of genetics. Like, this is my genetic child. this person is my child, so in every way, including biological.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have children, Carolyn Underwood's still alive, and the girls don't know. So I think the bigger story here for us.
Oh, so they didn't know.
They didn't know.
Oh, well, that's another podcast with our kids because my kids didn't know either.
So them being at our family functions, part of that open secret was the children don't know. And they are toddlers, and by the time they actually do find out, I can't remember exactly how old they were, but we literally sat them down in our home and we shared the news with them. And I can only liken it to how it must have felt for you to find out as a child, because that's the only sort of, we have to tell you that your father is adopted, and the incredible sort of downward truth that meant for them. So Gammy, Carolyn Underwood, she's not my biological grandmother. Oh, so what does that mean for me?
Oh yeah, because
now I'm lacking.
Yes, because that's the same thing that happened with Art. They were distraught. They were distraught. They would say, "Oh, this is not me. This is not us." Or what?
Correct.
It's a lot.
It's a
lot for them, and then you have to say, "Okay, wait a minute. You're still who you are. Your parents are still who they are. It's it's us. That's the one who was adopted. It doesn't change anything for you, but it does change their thought process of the rest of the perception of the rest of the family with them."
But from their point of view, it does change for them.
It changes for them, Lisa. And let me how old were your three?
The way the kids found out was.
Yeah, no one sat anyone down. They discovered it.
Also, Jayla and Jordan were very young.
Yeah, I think TC was like, I think Jasmine may have been in high school, maybe a freshman in high school. I think Maya was in middle school.
These kids were still in elementary school.
Yeah, right. I think
so.
TC
They
was
were
in elementary.
very, very young, and so that perception was like, wait a minute, so granddad's not our real granddad. And so we would have to change our lexicon and our vocabulary. That's your real granddad. That's his dad. That's his mother.
Right.
That is your grandmother and grandfather, or granddad and grandma. And so managing their psychological safety in the family was really, really important. But probably the more traumatic thing for us is when Carolyn Underwood died, and then later my mother died, there was this incredible gaping hole. It was like, we don't have that praying grandmother, and she died so young. And the girls were still very, very young elementary school. So they found out very early elementary school. And what I mean by early, like kindergarten or first grade. And then when Carolyn Underwood died, it was more like they were in third and fourth grade. So this idea of, I've lost my praying grandmother, who is so close to us, not only psychologically and mentally, but geographically, because she was the grandmother in Virginia.
Right. Yeah. So she was closest.
She was
them.
Here. It was so traumatic for them. So they would have almost, and I don't know if you can relate to this or not, but they would hate going around family functions where their cousins had their grandmother. They would hate going to churches where the grandkids would have their grandmother. They would see it. Even in our extended crew family, they would see those who had their grandmother, or how is this grandmother doing? How's that grandmother doing? We're going to go see grandma so-and-so. And it was almost like you could see them clench up and just hate to be around.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
But
that's
that explains some other things that when And this can go so many different ways.
Yeah.
Because when you hear different things, you're like, oh. And so you can
Puts it
understand
together.
why they always felt like they really weren't connected.
Correct. And they tried so hard to be part of our extended crew family. They wanted to be included. They wanted to be, feel like a part of, or that sense of belonging, because they did not have. And then shortly, like almost immediately, my mom passed away.
Right. So they just lost on both sides. And see, the difference between our kids is that the only one who really experienced my adoptive mother was Jasmine. And she was, so when she died, Jasmine was 6. She was 6, Maya was 3. And then, of course, TC wasn't here yet. So, and then, Maya, her memory is very, 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 very minimal. And Jasmine was the only one who really had an opportunity to be with her. And she's 6, so how much of a memory do you have of that, right? So growing up, they had his mom, their Mima. So she was there, and she was enough to fill that space for them, for both grandmothers,
That's what Mima called me?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Yeah, that's...
And she, because she knew my mother, they were very close. So it was easy for her to be able to talk about my mom to them because she had her own personal relationship.
She was able to share the stories, and they still had a presence that was inputted in.
Yes. I don't even know why I'm tearing up, but I am tearing up.
Because it's emotional. And
why didn't we have tissues here?
So here's the thing.
Because normally we don't cry.
Okay.
Right. Just in listening, we talk about the non-traditional relationships and how, as adults, we've had many opportunities to recover, even though we don't always take advantage of it. And I'm going somewhere with this. The children, in their innocence, and I'm just listening to both, like you said, yours didn't really have, ours had for a moment, and it was snatched away. But then you see how it impacts them in other circles, how this hurt, they generalize it into other spaces. And it just, to me, illustrates that why it's that important to have intentional, open communication within your family.
Yes.
And I think this is another reason why this space is so important, because the principles behind what we're sharing can help anybody. There are lots of things that happen within families that need to be addressed, that need to be talked about. What happens after someone transitions? After the funeral, most people go back business as usual. The family is left to piece it together. Well, for me, I was trying to figure out how to navigate the space after Carolyn passed away. Didn't do a good job at all. But then my kids watched, so now I'm modeling for them what to do. So they've picked up some bad habits. In addition to now, I'm going around where I don't have a grandmother because both of mine have transitioned. And I don't want to hang with you because you taking your grandma for granted, or you doing, you know what I'm saying? So they picking up on little things, but they don't have the language to say, I just lost my grandmother. That's very insensitive. Or you need to appreciate because, you know what I'm saying? So I'm listening, and it's just, like you said, unlocking so many different things. And I'm looking back to some of the probably unintentional hurt that we expose our kids to, not understanding where they were. And that's just when you know better, you do better, you know? So hopefully further down the line, long time from now, in a galaxy far away, when our kids have kids, we can,
a galaxy far away,
we can hopefully give them some parenting nuggets. Maybe we need to do a book.
Maybe
we need to do a book just to help with
breaking those generational curses and let me just also say that, I know this podcast is about non-traditional relationships, whether it's So I'm Adopted, and I want to give a plug to the amazing title, but it does create, and you all's journeys, and it seems like many of your guests over these past several, seasons, this past 12 episodes, episodes, it forces you to create your chosen family. And what I love about one of the things that came out or benefit that our kids have had is this chosen family here.
Yes.
Right? Our extended chosen family that people don't understand.
Yeah.
Right? I think people think, oh yeah, that they're just, they all went to church together, and somehow it's so much deeper than that.
Deeper, so many layers.
So many layers.
Yes.
And I remember when Carolyn Underwood passed away, all the guys, rushed up to Richmond to be in that hospital.
And then she took her last breath.
I remember us as a family, coming together for whatever the crisis was, but also the good times. So many good times.
Bourbon slush.
Yes.
You know what?
The bourbon slush.
When it was summertime, bourbon slush.
The
mango
bourbon slush that they were
That was a
creating.
long time ago.
Yeah.
Our cruising escapades,
You want it loaded?
all of our vacation shenanigans, wherever we made, wherever it took us. But I say that to say, because of those incredible deficits, that
something beautiful came out of
something
it.
beautiful
Because
came out
if
of
we
it.
went down the path that I'm not going to say that because we went down the path we were supposed to go down, but if we went down the path staying with our biological family, none of this would be here.
Correct.
I can guarantee you that.
Correct.
None of us would be, our crew wouldn't be in existence. None of this would be here. We would not be having this conversation.
Correct. And it just lets you and make you appreciate that just because we are not genetically bound, we are each other's chosen family. And I do feel like there's some type of supernatural bonding of us that God placed together.
Oh, absolutely.
So when Jayla and Jordan go out and say, hey, I'm going out with my cousins, they don't say, oh, my play cousins. They say my cousins.
So you try to tell them, well, they're not really your cousins.
Correct. And to that earlier
Mm-hmm.
point, there's no correction. Like when someone would say, oh, Johnny Underwood, you look just like Carolyn Underwood. No correction.
No correction. Yes.
My cousins are coming over to get me ready for prom. Or they're,
because that's all they know.
That's all they know. I can't wait till I grow up till my cousins come over to prom because they watched us all go through, right?
Yes.
And so that has helped. I'm not, fill that void. It hasn't completely erased the void, because you can, even as adults here, you can look at Jayla and Jordan and say, I could see a little bit why, or I understand, maybe why they're reserved, or why, whatever the case may be. But I can definitely say that it has helped.
Absolutely.
And then there's that side where, there's always that good side, but then there's always that ugly side of the whole realizing that you're adopted. I just watched Lisa go through a phase where the kids was, it's all I know to be mine. It's all I know to be mine. This is the only blood that I know of. And that took a different turn, just with the way we disciplined. It in that whole process, there was a wedge that was put there.
What do you mean by a wedge?
With our marriage. Because
did she recognize that it was because of?
Well, but
Lisa was in a different.
I was in a different mindset, especially when those are mine, and then it really put a wedge in it when I found my mother. And I don't know if you can attest to this, but when you find your biological mother, you revert back to being a kid, a child.
Oh, yes.
Your mind is like childlike. Mind you, I'm a grown adult, married, kids, dog, you name it. But I was all consumed with her.
It's almost like you're trying to make up for lost time.
A lot of lost time. I'm just consumed and no one else mattered.
But even
at
before
all.
she found her mother, we still had 7 years or however
We had
long
7
it was.
years where I just really
She
honed
just
in on my kids.
honed in on the
And
kids.
held tight,
Held tight.
held real tight.
What was the catalyst or the turning point that made you go into that zone?
Because that's all I knew.
That's all she knew
because
at
at that time, you remember, I just felt that my whole entire life.
So this happened right after you found out.
Right after I found out.
That's what I was
Remember,
asking.
she said 7 years. They
It
didn't
was
find
7
out.
I got
years.
you. Okay.
So
It was a minute before I found out who my biological mother was.
Just,
And then, I'm just like, well, that's not my family. I mean, and mind you, my dad's family, he's the oldest of 11 kids, and they all had kids. And there's a lot of them that are still here living in Virginia. So I have a lot of cousins, right? I have a lot of cousins that's here. And I just, I kind of like pushed back on quite a few things when it came to the family.
and
Don't
not
ask
just
me to-
family, it
was
affected
everything.
our marriage.
It
big time.
did.
Because now I'm bothered because so many people knew.
You want to be protector now.
And so now I'm like, why are we here?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Lisa's in this world with the kids. I'm in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm mad at all of this.
Right.
Because of the way I felt like I got thrown into it.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, you see the hurt that she's going
Oh
through.
man, it was terrible.
But could you, in the midst of her holding on so tight, this is before meeting the biological mother, could you logically see that, you know what, I'm going to give her some grace because I think she's doing this, or this particular argument today is because she's like, this is my biological, and you could like articulate it and go, you know what,
I did that for a little
understand.
while. But it was so much just going on,
Yeah,
It was a lot going on. I did not have
the language
the capacity
or the capacity to
language
handle
at
it.
that time. And I'm working in the police department.
You didn't even recognize it for what it was, probably.
Exactly, he didn't.
That's
You
what I
know,
meant. Yeah.
And so I had things, it was just compound.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm dealing with what's happened to my wife, to the secrets that were held back, to now where it has turned into a devastating situation as far as the way we're looking at it.
Yeah.
You're dealing with
Because
friendly
I
fire.
watched Lisa go from being that loving person and being the one to set up everything to being that person that I just
Okay,
I don't want to be bothered.
I don't want to be bothered. It's enough of us out here. Go get them.
Well, one of the things that I found interesting, because it was an open secret, and then once the girls knew, we've never held secrets from the girls. We would always tell them in our house, the culture of our home is we don't hold secrets, because I never wanted them something to happen to them at school or happen to them, with a family member, and then they don't tell us, or, the thing that we all dread, right? Mm-hmm. And then them not feel comfortable. So we've always told them no secrets. But when I did have children, or when we had children,
Wait.
let me change that
I was
pronoun.
like, what is being exposed today?
When we had children, one of the things, and this is what I mean by it's a little different, because he was adopted, I believe, a couple of things happened for John. And I'm watching on the outside looking in. He is so excited to have his first biological relative in Jayla. Mm-hmm. He told it to everybody. He's like, so it was in real time. Mm-hmm. And of course, I know he's told the story in recent past episodes where, the doctor's asking us, what's your medical history? We don't know. We don't know if she has sickle cell trait or whatever the case may be. And that's what actually sparked me to go look for his biological family back in 2006. But the interesting thing for us is that I would share is that John held so tight to Jayla and Jordan when they came. It was almost like I don't know if you all remember, he'd be in church and he'd be the one to hold them the whole time. You know, like that proud mama where you wanted to hold your baby in church. Oh, can I see the baby? That was him. I distinctly remember he was doing a program in the evening, and is a church program, and we're all there, the whole extended family, the whole crew, and John was holding the baby. I said, John, I got the baby. And everyone was like, Janice, why you got John holding the baby? I'm like, he wants to hold the baby. Janice, don't you know you're supposed to? He working. He can't hold the baby. He tried to grab the baby and walk around with the baby. He was holding on so tight, and I caught hell because it was like, you're not being a supportive wife, mother. Like, take the baby while John is up on stage or something. So I say that to say what that transitioned to actually, though, when they came out of infant baby stages, is John would get jealous of the girls. And the wedge that would happen in our marriage was that if I come home, I've worked all day, I'm in my PhD classes, I wouldn't get home until 10 o'clock at night. If they happened to be up and I went and said hello to them first, because they run to the door because they hear me and he's still in the, you're supposed to say hello to me first. You know, he would get kind of jealous of them because I would pour in at the mother thing, you know, that mother bonding. He would get really, really, really jealous of the girls.
John? Because it seems like you have something to say in contrast to that.
I'm not going to disagree. Right. There were moments. At the time, I didn't, like you said, have the capacity and the language to really express the why behind it. Jealousy is such a negative word.
Such a strong word.
It's a strong word. I mean, to me, there's levels of jealousy.
Correct. And what it was,
that makes sense.
I wanted to be, and I'll tell you where it stems from. I wanted to be the priority. I remember what was modeled for me. My dad would come in the house, and I remember crawling to the door, and he would acknowledge my mother first. So there was a level of, well, this is out of order. Where at the end of the day, looking back, I can just appreciate having a wife that loved her kids, that would pour into them. So it was growing pains for me dealing with, only child syndrome, as I said, being so sensitive, as they call me.
SSS.
So just really unpacking a lot of different emotions, but not really wanting to vocalize where it stems from. Because a lot of times, most times, we don't like to deal with the root of problems. We don't like to get our hands dirty in the dirt. We want to deal with the surface and pluck it, and then it just resprouts. We don't want to go down and dig it up so it doesn't reoccur.
And so that reoccurring or that root issue was that feeling of inadequacy. It was that feeling of I'm not enough, or I don't have that sense of belonging. I don't know who my family really is. I don't know where I come from. And Jayla and Jordan do. Right. And so we would have conversations, and we would interrogate, his feelings about, like, because there would be a little argument right after that. It would like a tinderbox. Yeah. And so then we would have to unpack, like John said, and say, finally we would dig it up and we would get to the root. And it always came back to, I'm adopted. And I don't get to have the feeling of psychological safety that you have had, that Jayla and Jordan are having and experiencing right now. I wanted this. This is what I thought I had. And now it's not. Even though he knew early on.
But see it in real time.
To see what it looked like.
And how it makes you feel emotionally.
Yeah, he was proud, a proud daddy. Right. He was there when they were born. Right. He saw the babies come out physically. So he knew this is biological, his biological genetic family. But it was almost like this is a gift that I'll never
Never have.
I'll never have. I'll never
Because
get
you'll
to
never.
open it.
And the thing is, the things that we go through, you guys will never be able to understand because you've never experienced being on the other side.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So how our thought process, I don't know why I'm crying, but our thought process is different than your thought process because you only know what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your biological path that you went down. We don't have that.
Right.
So we think differently.
You know what's interesting, and I'm sitting here just reflecting. I think sometimes for me there was a shame I was ashamed to say I'm doing this because I'm adopted. Because it would have been very easy to say it, but I couldn't for a long time say this is why. And I don't know if it was
that nuance, like we don't talk about Bruno, we don't talk about it. So
you know, I don't know this. Because I'm sitting here listening. I'm like, I believe you would have understood if I said, look, I'm adopted, and I don't understand. I can't right now.
Right, and
that would have been the safe card to play.
Right, and they could understand that you're looking at it from that, but they can never really fully understand the experience that you're going through. Right. You know, they can be empathetic to what we're going through, but to really know, because you're not really going through it yourself. You're just you're because you love us.
And maybe that's why I didn't share, because the belief, well, you're not going to understand when I tell you anyway. So why even tell you? And again, that's a very, I want to say immature way to look at it. But sometimes when you're in that tunnel by yourself, that's all you can go on. You only know what you know. And there's a lot of safeguarding that goes on.
Oh, the gate comes out.
Well, and I think that has bonded almost you and I, because we are the spouses of those who have been adopted. And I remember in our crew family, if something was happening with John, for whatever reason, someone might say, you need to talk to Titus. You need to talk to Titus, because I think this has something to do with, like, he's been dealing with this a little longer. And by that, obviously we've known the whole time, but the trauma that how you all found out, it's always been, you should go talk to Titus. And I say that to say that I have just appreciated watching how you all have moved in these spaces, right? The journey. And it's an onion, because it unfolds. Hey, Janice, I'm going to go meet my so-and-so for the first time. And that was just, a month ago? Yeah. Like, you're still unwrapping this gift that is a gift that keeps on giving. And so I say that to say that this is a lifelong journey that we're all on, and God has connected us.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Whew.
Wow.
This is a heavy episode, y'all.
But it can go so many different places.
Yeah.
Right now we're just concentrating on the adoptive part of it and how we felt when we all found out. But as we talked, it trickled to the kids. It trickled to marriage. It trickled to the way you move in life. It's so many
non-traditional
branches, non-traditional relationships.
You can go so many ways with it, and I'm sure whenever y'all speak to the kids, that's going to be a whole different conversation. I know with our kids, that's going to be something different. Yeah, because just the way they found out.
Yeah, because they interrogated me like,
why you didn't?
Is this true? They had the evidence in their hand, and they just caught me off guard.
Wow.
I was like, yes. And then,
wow. So, I know we got to get ready to land the plane. I always want to walk away with some deliverables, some action items. And this is a question just for anybody. With this being the holiday season, when we're recording, you may watch it at any time. Click that like button, share, all that good stuff.
Yes.
Right. What advice would you give? And you all can speak from the perspective of supporting someone who is going through the journey of adoption, whether they're just finding out or they want to find out, whatever it may be. Because during the holidays, it brings to the surface a lot of emotions. Because a lot of people they don't know what they don't know. So they're used to, oh, well, the holidays are this. Well, the holidays aren't great for everybody.
Right.
Sometimes it may be a reminder of what you don't have. Sometimes it may be a reminder that your situation is not the traditional situation. If you could give some encouragement, words of wisdom, or just something to those who are listening that may be wrestling during this season, what would you say to them? Anybody. It doesn't. Lisa?
Titus?
Go ahead, Janice. You always have a way with words.
Yeah, based upon what we've been through and survived, I would say we're stronger as people individually and collectively. Our marriage is stronger. We've overcome so much. Hindsight's 2020. So my advice to everyone watching, especially if you are thinking about, or you realize, or you just found out that you are adopted, or you are supporting a spouse or a partner that is adopted, I would say approach the relationship with curiosity. And some of the things we've talked about today speak to that. Because right now you may not have the language or the capacity to understand that this little argument today about who's cooking the yams,
Right.
It's a yam off.
is an argument that really stems from this feeling of inadequacy that goes deeper in the pain of being adopted and so on and so forth. So thank you, Lisa, for allowing John to cook the yams today.
You're welcome.
Oh, wait a minute. 30-second time out. How did I get put on blast?
But in those, they better be good. They're gonna.
They better be good. That's all I gotta say.
But listen, honestly,
they're gonna be good.
They're gonna be good.
Trust me when I tell you that. I hope your insurance plan is right, because somebody's gonna bite their finger off.
Here's this is what I mean by approaching the non-traditional relationships with curiosity, so that you take the time to think the best of the other person. And so that argument, which is stemming from a place of hurt, really has nothing to do with probably whatever you all are arguing about on the surface. So as a spouse, what I had to do was really approach John with a level of curiosity so I could help unpack it. So a lot of the times I had to leverage my own sort of self-awareness to say, right now, I'm going to decrease so I can help John increase. Let me allow him to get the time he needs to get to the end result of understanding why this is happening. Like, it took him some minutes. We're arguing about whatever the case may be. And I remember our first year of marriage, he was like, forget it, we're getting a divorce. He says these words to me. So I sat back in the bed. I was like, okay, whatever. And I just let him go off on his tangent.
You know what the argument was? Sweeping the floor.
It was sweeping the floor. And like, I knew.
Those are the serious ones.
I knew that this was
tell me I can't sweep.
So much
I know how to sweep.
It was the dumbest argument. So when he went all the way from a 0 to 1,000, well, we're just getting a divorce. And I thought, about sweeping the floor.
And then you just put that in the divorce decree.
Right.
Not unreconcilable difference, because
this argument about sweeping the floor. So
But let me clarify, because what it stemmed from was, again, not having the language or the mindset. I felt like I was being attacked because what I had learned growing up wasn't right.
Or inadequate.
So now, not only are you attacking me, you're attacking everybody that I grew up with in my household. You're talking about my mama. We got an issue. So that's how, again, this root stems a branch that when it's tapped, it goes directly back to that nerve. And if we don't address it, that could have caused me to walk away from the best thing that ever happened to me.
You damn right.
I just want to write my name in the velvet.
And because you said that, communication is the key to everything.
Yeah,
because everything you said, I ditto that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of things that take place because I guess, and the thing for me is that I didn't know.
Yeah.
But I was still going through it because still in the back of my head, there was something different about me, but I just didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So that caused a lot, right? And then again, the way I was raised, because I try to put everything that I saw my parents do into this relationship, and that ain't work at all. At all. And then on top of it, finding out that I was adopted when we still didn't get it straight from the beginning, just the way because we were raised differently.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't work. On top of then finding out I was adopted, it put a lot of different wedges in our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But I thank God because we weathered through the storm.
Mm-hmm.
We still here.
Yeah.
We still together.
Here. We're still together.
Yeah. So curiosity is my approach with curiosity, and always try to give the best, give people the best intentions, assume best intentions.
Yes, and communicate. I mean, but you can't communicate your feelings when you don't understand your feelings yourself.
Right.
And that's part of it. That was part of it because I didn't understand my own feelings of how I felt about things.
Exactly.
I didn't know.
So as the spouse, what I'm saying to those who might be watching is if you are in a relationship, a partnership, a friendship, a marriage with someone who is in whatever stage they are in, assume best intentions.
Yeah.
Because they are going through some of the most traumatic truths and reflections. And almost, I don't mean to speak for you, but like, it's almost like even if it heals, you might think back on something and have a new revelation and the hurt can start all over again. Right. So you're in this constant continuum that you don't know when that healing or that hurt will be resolved. And then when I find out, oh, wait a minute, that what I thought was resolved, it's still there. And John will, express, this is still bothering me, or I realized, or I have this reflection that I know it's 10 years later, but remember this thing that happened at such and such event, now I know. So it's almost like a pendulum that swings back and forth. And so when it hits this side, and I think we're all good, it can hit the other side. And, there's never we're never at the destination.
It's like, and we've said this, when you say destination, because that's something you never really reach.
You never reach it.
Because once you get there,
you go into glory. It's done.
It's still, well, not necessarily done, because there's, when you're traveling, you see the bumps in the road. We're on the way there. We're on the way. We're trying to get to where you want to be. But when you get there, you're just not going to sit there. Right? You're still going to continue.
You're going to explore.
To travel and explore.
You never finish that.
So the thing is, there's a destination to a certain degree. But as long as we're on this earth, there's never really a permanent destination.
A final destination.
Like you said, until we're gone away from here.
That's right.
And, I would say that if you're dealing with a spouse who just found out the things like that y'all found out, especially the way Lisa found out about being adopted, my first thought is, okay, what's her family going to be like when she meets him? This is how I'm thinking. Okay, I'm going to have to become a protector because I don't know. You go into a situation not really knowing what you're walking into. If you're not careful, you go there with great expectations and they're not met. So go in with an open mindset, however that may look. Don't go there expecting certain things because it may not happen.
It may not happen.
I mean, we've had a great experience with our family. Lisa's biological family, even our adoptive family. We had great experiences, but when things come out, like you said, it never ends.
Mm-hmm.
You think you're over it, but you're never really over it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's how do you learn how to live and adjust in it.
New normal.
New normal.
Mm-hmm.
New normal. I mean, it may always be there,
New normal.
but we just learn to deal with it. Be patient. It's not about you at this point. It's about your spouse. It's about what they're dealing with. And sometimes that's hard to deal with. That's hard to deal with because you want to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've always been a fixer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's something that you can't fix and that you can't control. I had to get used to being uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
in a situation where I was trying to make Lisa comfortable. But I couldn't do that. I would sacrifice certain things so that she would be comfortable to a certain degree. But I was really leery about things because I had a police mind. So I'm thinking all kinds of stuff.
I get that.
I'm
Googling people.
I'm like, okay, let's look at the Google, see who's so.
Who gonna come after money and. Mm-hmm.
But it's just that we really have to just sit back and just kind of go along with the ride.
Yeah.
Because we can't control it. We can't control it.
That's right.
It's really here.
And we need to support you.
And we're just riding to make sure that, hey, there's no one getting hurt.
And we ride until the wheels fall
And we
off.
ride, and I mean, there's been some corners where it's halfway like this.
Lisa,
okay,
you know, I'll put a skull cap on and I will ride.
We know you pull out the Vaseline.
That's
You're
right.
We do know that.
Overall, it's been a good experience, but you just be ready for anything at that point. During this holiday season, take time for the family you do know.
That's right.
If there's some things that you feel like could be done better, then make that step and try to make it better for the ones you do know. And then hopefully that will open up doors for other family connections. So
Awesome. That all great points.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, just on behalf of Lisa and myself, and I don't think she would be upset with me saying this, we want to say thank y'all. When we did the first episode, we mentioned that having you all at the table would bring a unique aspect to the conversation, and it is evident. We've been talking an hour and a half. We only presented 2 questions. So I think it shows further that this umbrella that we're carrying for this So I'm Adopted it creates so many runoffs that the sky's the limit, but ultimately it's a place for healing. Yeah. Because I believe that our healing is connected to you all from a spiritual standpoint. God gives you what you need when you need it through who you need. I mean, through various individuals. He knew what our story was, and he knew who he needed to put with us so that we would be successful in our journey and be able to endure the journey. So as sometimes the pilot, sometimes as the co-pilot, because in a marriage, sometimes that role switches depending on the scenario. Just want to say thank y'all very much.
Yes, thank you.
Especially during this season where we can get caught up, and I say we, not necessarily us at the table, but in general, we can get so caught up in the commercialized aspect, we forget to really just take time. And like you said, the ones you do know, are you maximizing those relationships effectively? Because there will be a day where you won't have the opportunity, and you can say, I wish I coulda, shoulda. Well, you got plenty of opportunities now. You got 24 hours in a day where you can pick the phone up. Now you can just send a text if you don't have the language, just text back and forth. So again, thank y'all. Thank y'all for taking the time.
Yes.
To sit down with us at our table.
Yes, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
It's been an hour and a half.
and that's my chick. This was my table.
Oh.
I'm just saying.
I said our, it's the tapestry of the table.
Yes.
I was really,
Hesitant to say
Leery?
that?
Very
To sit
hesitant
down.
to sit down because I'm not
We've been putting it off for a
a
long time.
podcast type of person. You know.
But I had to lock y'all in today.
Oof.
It was hard getting them here. I just want y'all to know that.
I was
We
forced.
made it all the way
We
from
did.
Florida.
But we just hope that something was said today.
Yes, some good nuggets was
Just looking at
dropped.
from different angles, like you said, John.
But even beyond for the listeners, I think there was some level of healing that took place,
Here.
some affirmations that took place, some comforts that took place through just the conversation
Yeah.
And revelations.
and revelation.
revelations.
There's been new revelations, I think, even as we think about our own children,
Yeah.
as we think about our marriages,
Yes.
memories that have popped up. I know I could see the wheels turning in John's head, and he was looking back like, oh, wait, that was right. So I'm just grateful for the conversation. And my hope is that others who are watching will just continue to have those conversations step by step, even if it starts small. To your point, Lisa, it's so important, that communication, approaching it with that curiosity, assuming best intent, but just have conversation. Open conversation.
And conversations will tap you into different emotions. Like you sitting here, and there's been a few times you teared up. And
Right.
I'm like, you don't know why you're tearing up, but it's still, it's like it's old, but it's really new.
Yeah.
It's always new. It's forever new.
Forever.
That's why I don't sweep now.
He doesn't, y'all.
I don't.
He don't sweep.
I don't sweep.
Hey, whatever works in your
I
relationship.
don't even sweep the grass up. I do a blower. We play them games. It's dramatic.
It's dramatic.
PTSD.
So again, we want to say thank y'all for taking
Yes.
the time to invest, and hopefully this was beneficial. Hit that like, hit that share, tell somebody about our platform.
Yes.
If you want to be a guest, if you have a story, please send us a message, send us an email. We respond to those emails. We've had people reach out and express their journeys. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. So make sure we are on Instagram, Facebook,
Apple Music,
TikTok,
Spotify,
and all major platforms that you can find your podcast, and definitely on YouTube.
Yes, and we do have beta VHS tapes if you need it.
No, we don't. We do not.
Half people don't even know what that is.
Exactly. They were like,
Oh,
what?
check this out. So we were watching something, and the guy said, Walkman. And Jordan was like, what's a Walkman?
We were so embarrassed.
I was like, don't say that out loud. Like, we failed you. But seriously, we want to tell you all to have a happy holiday.
Happy holidays.
Enjoy your family.
Yes.
So
take time out for your loved ones.
Yeah, invest your time.
Invest your time, like my hubby over here said.
Yeah.
So we love y'all. And I think this will be no, it won't. But we'll see you in the new year with bigger and greater guests. So
bigger, deafer. I don't know what that is.
I don't know how much more greater you can get
than us right here. We're going to tell you the truth.
And wait till you see the bloopers from this.
All right.
So I'm John.
I'm Lisa.
And
we are adopted.
Y'all want to outtake like something? Like I'm Janice.
I'm Janice.
I am Titus.
And we are the spouses of those who are adopted.
How about these two? What's with the spirit finger? Hey, y'all have a great one.
I was a cheerleader for so many years. So,
all right, this is great.
Until next time.
To the next episode.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the So I'm Adopted podcast. We hope that this was informative and educational. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at So I'm Adopted. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel, So I'm Adopted. And again, thank you for listening. And until next time, make the choice to begin your healing journey.
I got it. No, I got it.
We did get some stuff from Wayne.
We did get some
Thank
some
you,
really
Wayne.
good stuff. We just
We
haven't.
love you, Wayne.
we
Whenever
just-
you see this, we love you.
We actually got 61 items from Wayne.
61.
oh,
DJ
boy.
61.
Oh.
She was like 61.
We just haven't been able to use it yet.
Okay.
We have to figure it out.
Is
Yeah.
that color?
It's
Boy,
called
you're
the
so
volume.
distracted.
It's the volume.
Qualifications.
A lot of.
Quantification.
Are y'all ready?
We're ready.
You ready?
I'm sorry.
What-
I was gonna get. It's not a good drink. I need some more.
Okay.
Boo 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 boo.
Can you pull that up?
No. Has nothing to do with us. I haven't even pressed the button on the thing. Dang it.
Just like the one
We didn't press what button?
I didn't press the button.
No more distractions. We're doing this.
What in the world?
This is what I'm
Hey.
saying. If you ask for tea, he gonna get up and go get some more tea. He gonna be ready for the Christmas party tonight, though.
All right. You ready? So, John.
Why are you looking at me? It ain't my fault.
I didn't say anything. I just looked up.
Okay.
So, whenever you're ready, John, you can go ahead and start.
All right.
3, 2, 1, action.
Why you put your glasses on?
I was.
Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry.
All right, action.
Okay. You ready, Titus? Ready? Okay.
You open up with prayer.
No, you can if you need to. All right. Hey, so we just want to say happy holidays and welcome to our. Oh, I thought you said
There-
stop.
No, I was like,
Like, start
it's
over,
started.
John.
It doesn't-
John, you're distracted. Like,
No,
she
I
was
It's all good.
adding on.
I got you.
We have extra people here today, so don't mind us.
It's all
Okay,
good.
let's start all over. Go.
But somehow or another, that's gonna get. It needs to be seen. I think so.
You're sweating.
No, I'm not. What are you? Why are we even talking? I'm gonna sweat now that you brought attention to it. I haven't sweated the whole time,
Yeah.
and now that we're sitting down with you, it's a little more.
Okay, you're a little nervous.
Excuse me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
It was at 1800. I'm glad you got that
I'm so
out now.
sorry. That was snuck up on me.
You didn't know it's coming.
Sometimes you don't know these things. It's like a fart.
Oh, we know about that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We
Okay,
know,
we're gonna start all over.
we know about
Start.
what?
Go ahead, start.
Did I fart?
No.
Oh.
Okay, just
I was wondering. You looked at me like we know about that. I didn't fart. I didn't.